Good morning, boys and girls. We're ready to start our second day of our ragweed adventure. You know, I really wasn't sure yesterday that Ragweed was going to be able to leave home, but when he got on that huge train, that was when I understood just how determined he is to have a great adventure. Today we're going to start on chapter 3. The title of our chapter is Silver Sides. What do you think that is? Or who do you think it is? Well, let's see. Is everybody making a prediction as to maybe who or what Silver Sides is? Silver Sides was not just another white cat. She was a very angry cat. According to her, the world had become a terrible place, and the cause of it all was mice. A large cat, Silver Sides, was 7 years old, in the very prime of life. Her eyes were yellow, her fur white as snow. Around her neck was a pink polyvinyl collar studded with sparkling diamond-like sequins. Dangling from this collar was her city license, Amperville 30, a tag she wore with pride. Low numbers were prized among Amperville's many cats. Silver Sides lived into the home which she had been carried as an 8-week-old kitten. Most recently, her private place was a rug behind a growling basement furnace. The house humans came by this warm, quiet spot only rarely, which meant that these days, Silver Sides was alone most of the time. This did not please her. Though Silver Sides had raised 12 kittens during her mothering years, she had done it by herself. It had not been easy tending to her litters. It required continual struggle to teach the kittens to grow into decent, hard-working, right-thinking cats. As far as she was concerned, she had succeeded. Now they were grown and gone, having chosen homes of their own. There were even grand kittens. Though Silver Sides saw these youngsters only occasionally on midnight strolls while she was patrolling her territory or hunting in the park, she fretted about them all the time. Life in the city of Amperville was not what it once had been. When Silver Sides had been young, Amperville had been prosperous, clean, and wholesome. Mice were relatively few. Now, she had no idea why the humans who bore the prime responsibility for keeping things up no longer cared much about Amperville. The community was run down. The worst result was that the city had become infested by mice. Moreover, these mice were very different from those of previous generations. In the good old days, according to Silver Sides, house mice knew their place in numbers. Timid and respectful, these mice lived with gratitude on crumbs. They entered houses furtively and then only through back doors or cracks in foundations. Only rarely did these mice make themselves noticeable. To do otherwise was to put their lives at risk, as both cats and mice understood. When the occasional rebellious house mouse got uppity, Amperville cats knew exactly what to do with them. The upstart mouse would be caught and dealt with. No fuss, no muss, nothing needed to be said. But nowadays, Amberville mice had not just increased in number, they had become brazen. They acted as if they actually had a right to be in Amberville, going so far as to claim part of town, a section by the railroad that humans had abandoned as their own. Town Mouse, they called it. Mousetown, they called it. They had their own mayor, schools, clubs. Though Silversides tried at first to ignore these new mice, every one of them was a personal insult, as unending irritation, a reminder that things were not as they should be. Then, two things of great importance happened. The girl who lived in Silverside's house brought home a white-furred, pink-eyed mouse and kept it in her room. She called this mouse Blinker. The mouse's very name, sickeningly cute, irritated Silversides enormously. That she and this mouse were the same color only served to inflame the cat even more. There had been a time when Silversides had slept on the girl's pillow. If she wasn't sleeping on the pillow, she was on the rug at the foot of the girl's bed. Now the girl lavished all her affection on the mouse. She fondled him, kissed him, carried him around, gave Blinker the complete freedom of her room. Worst of all, the girl told Silversides that she was no longer welcome there. The rug had been removed to the basement. Insulted and humiliated, Silversides hid behind the furnace for days on end. There she brooded and sulked, deeply depressed, preferring the darkness of the cellar and the smelly litter box to any kind of social life, indoors or out. Only now and again did Silverside venture forth. When she did, it was to visit her grown-up kittens and grandkittens. It was just such a visit that brought about a second crisis, one that changed the course of Silverside's life. Jasper was a particular favorite grand kitten of Silverside's. He was an affectionate, coal-black creature with blue eyes and a splash of white upon his chest. One day, Silversides came to visit Jasper, only to discover him playing on the front lawn with a mouse. Silverside's first reaction was astonishment. The next moment, she filled with rage. Leaping forward, she gave the mouse a few hard smacks, which sent him reeling away. Then she cuffed her grand kitten smartly across the nose. "How dare you?" she howled. Jasper, frightened as well as upset by Silverside's actions, hardly knew what to say. "That was my best friend," he mewed piteously. "Friend," Silverside screeched, "you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Aren't there any decent cats in this neighborhood for you to play with? Don't you know that the lowliest cat is vastly superior to the highest mouse? Where's your mother? I intend to give her a piece of my paw." A cowering Jasper said, "My mother went out." "Where?" "I don't know. Business." "Business," Silverside screeched. "A mother's business is to stay home and make sure her children have proper friends. I cannot believe how far this town has fallen. With that, she stalked away, tail erect, but not before she had given her grand kitten a spank on his bottom. This incident changed Silverside's life. Her anger was so great, she made up her mind to do something about the Amperville mouse problem. That night, she began to prowl the streets of the city in search of mice. It was not the act of a hungry cat seeking food. It was vengeance. Sure enough, Silverside came upon 2 mice. The first was sent running for its life. The second did not run fast enough and met a grisly end. Silversides deposited the corpse outside the girl's door. It was meant to be a declaration of war. Silversides quickly realized she could not solve the city's mouse problem all on her own. She created an organization. The organization was dedicated to keeping cats on top, people in the middle, mice on the bottom. Silverside called her group Felines Enraged About Rodents, or FEAR. She even created a slogan for FEAR. Felines first. Though Silversides invited other cats to join FEAR, she could not be bothered. They would shrug or say things like, "I don't need to join a club to catch mice. I do just fine on my own," or "I'd like having more mice around. There's that many more to chase, and even rude food, they taste the same." In the end, from the entire cat population of Amperville, Silversides was able to recruit only 1 other cat for her organization. The 2 formed the membership of Felines Enraged About Rodents. Silversides was president. Her vice president was a cat by the name of Graybar. Graybar was a street cat, scruffy gray in color. He was lean and covered with scars to prove his meanness. He had a jagged ear and a lump, the result of a battle about which he was particularly proud. It had been 3 against 1, and he had been the one, and he had been the winner. He bore his injuries as proof of his toughness. "Do you want to know what I think of mice?" Graybar asked Silversides when she first talked to him about joining FEAR. "Yes. The only good mouse is a dead mouse." "You're my kind of cat," Silversides said. Silversides had learned that country mice often came to town by train. These trains stopped near Mousetown, and mice got off. One of the first things Silverside, turned too many pages, and Graybar did was organize a patrol around the old railway depot. Mice new to town, timid and often scared, were easy prey for the organization. When Silversides or Graybar caught such a mouse, they terrified it, warned it never to return, then threw it back onto the train. These were the lucky ones. Okay, boys and girls, the next chapter is entitled "To the City." So let's see what's going to happen. All that night, the freight train carrying Ragweed rumbled on. He was too excited to sleep. Instead, he remained by the open door and watched the passing scene, and pass it did. One rapid vision after another flashed before his eager eyes. No sooner did he see something of great interest, barely grasping what it was, than it vanished, to be replaced by something just as new, just as fascinating. The one constant was the moon, which remained in the night sky like an old friend. At first there were many trees, but there were fewer as the train rushed on. There were also other structures, large and dark, which fit the description the old vole had provided for human nest. Now and again they contained gleaming lights. Once a mouse saw the silhouetted form of a human pacing before what looked like a window. It went by so quickly, however, that it was impossible to be sure. Sometimes there were clusters of these human nests. Ragweed, again recalling the vole's words, decided these clusters were towns. It made him wonder where the train was heading. Not that there was any question about getting off while it was moving. That would have been foolish. But when the train stopped, should he jump off right away or wait for some other place? Laughing in himself, Ragweed acknowledged the wonderful fact that it did not matter where he got off. Everything he saw and did would be new. It was just like the life he desired. So he sat and watched and thirsted for more. The train, clacking rhythmically over the rails, rushed on through the night. Now and again its whistle blew. Long, low, and melody it was, the most powerful sound that Ragweed had ever heard. He decided it was the train's song, the song of a wanderer, a song about a heroic search for adventures far from home. Humming along, he made it his own. It was not until dawn that the train began to slow down. Ragweed had fallen asleep at last, but the moment the train reduced in speed, he woke, alert and watching intently. There were many humans' nests to see now. All in neat rows they were, with prim grassy areas before them, as well as an occasional tree. How orderly, Ragweed thought with puzzlement. He decided he must be coming to a city. Sure enough, within moments, he spied a large sign. It read, "Welcome to Amperville, a clean, decent place to live and work." For the first time, he saw humans clearly. He was shocked by their size, by how little fur they had, how each one was covered by a different mix of colors. He also spotted what looked like little trains. They were box-like metallic things, brightly colored, each with a human inside and two bright lights in front. There were many of them, and they moved very fast. Heart beating fast with anticipation, Ragweed edged closer to the doorway, stuck his nose over the threshold,
That door closed.
and peered down. It was a long way. Nonetheless, he prepared himself to leap. But the train did not stop. It continued to roll with just enough speed to make a premature departure dangerous. Other humans' nests passed by. Soon, however, they grew fewer in number, and those that Ragweed had seemed wrecked here and there. He saw more of those metallic boxes. They were not moving. Instead, they appeared to have been discarded and torn apart. One or two were even upside down with wheels to the sky like a dead creature. Their bright colors turned to a uniform dark brown. The train slowed to a crawl. A series of bumps and thumps followed until it came to a complete halt. The whistle sounded a long, low, mournful shriek as if to say goodbye. Not far from the train, Ragweed spied a number of dilapidated human nests. They looked abandoned. Among scrawny bushes, there were more of those broken, twisted, metallic boxes. Closer by was a heap of objects containing food bits, bottles, cans, boxes, paper, the sort of thing that sometimes mysteriously found their way to the brook, plus lots of other things Ragweed could not identify. Nearby was another pile. This one was made of what looked like chunks of white clay. The whole scene appeared grim and lifeless. Then he glanced down at the ground right beneath him. Sitting amid the gravel, long, fluffy tail waving menacingly, was a large, furry, white beast. In all his life, Ragweed had never actually seen a cat. Like all mice, however, he knew a great deal about them by way of countless scary stories. So it was that Ragweed needed only to see Silversides to know that here was a cat, and she was his enemy. Sure enough, the cat called out in a shrill, angry voice, "If I were you, Mouse, I'd keep going. Amperville doesn't like strangers. Certainly not strangers who are mice. This is a clean, decent place." To make her point, she opened her mouth wide, revealing a pink tongue, a deep, dark gullet, and many sharp white teeth. Ragweed was too horrified to say or do anything. Not so the cat. She hissed, then spat, spewing upon Ragweed. The next moment, though she had been sitting, she leaped into the boxcar. She would have landed right on Ragweed if the frightened mouse had not lost his footing and tumbled. Landing on the gravel by the side of the train tracks, a frantic Ragweed twisted around and looked up. The white cat glared angrily down at him from the boxcar. "If you're looking for a fight, Mouse, you've come to the right town," she said, tensing her muscles. She was prepared to jump again. Ragweed did not wait. He bolted up and began to run as fast as he could. A thud sounded behind. Without looking, he knew the cat was after him. "Outsider!" Silverside screeched. "Stranger!" Searching desperately for a place of safety, Ragweed dashed on. He stole a glance over his shoulder. The cat was loping along behind him, a horrid grin upon her face. She was enjoying the chase. "Get out of town, Mouse," she screeched. "Felines first. FEAR rules. Leave on your own before you're dragged out by your tail." Desperate, Ragweed dove into the jumble of junk he'd observed from the boxcar and crawled into a can. Only to find himself knee-deep in gooey red sauce. Almost faint from the fumes, he shot out of the can and became momentarily entangled in a twist of wires. Pulling free, he paused to listen. The cat was right behind him. From the wires, Ragweed squeezed under moldy pages full of words, worked his way around some collapsed boxes. The words cornflakes were on one of them, then crawled over old pickles and reeking tubs of decaying food. That brought him to the other side of the pile. He looked out 15 yards in front of him. There were some run-down human nests, but before them sat one of those large metallic boxes of a rusty brown color. Not only did the box appear to be broken, but its wheels were hard to see, sunk deep into the earth. On the side of one nearest Ragweed was a small hole at ground level. He was sure that if he could get through that hole, he would be safe from the cat. Crouching, he listened intently for some hint as to the cat's location. What he heard was more pushing and pulling, suggesting the cat was still behind him, but getting closer. Ragweed was sure he had no choice. To stay meant certain death. He had to bolt. "Farewell, Mom," he whispered. "Farewell, Dad." With that, he galloped out from beneath the pile. Almost instantly, there was a hideous yowl behind him. Without looking, Ragweed knew the cat was on his tail. This time, she was not holding back. The mouse ran as he never ran in his life. Great, bounding, stiff tail leaps that took him closer and closer to the metal box. But when he reached it, he discovered to his horror that the hole was blocked from the inside by a piece of wood. Desperate, he clawed at the wood. It did not budge. He looked back. The cat was crouching, barely a yard away, belly low to the ground, yellow eyes fixed on him like daggers, sequins flashing, claws flexed, tail waving, rump wiggling. The cat was preparing her deadly pounce. Oh my, we have to stop for the day. Time to make that prediction. Oh, I hope Ragweed's okay. I hope your predictions say he's okay. See you tomorrow, boys and girls.